50,000 humans stood in silence as their fate was read aloud. The Galactic Assembly Hall stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with representatives from 300 species. Not one of them looked at the humans with anything but disgust. Counselor Torvak clicked his mandibles together in satisfaction. His insectoid body gleamed under the ceremonial lights as he read from the glowing tablet in his four hands. He had waited 2 years for this moment. The human species is found guilty of unauthorized expansion, Torvak announced. 3 moons. 3 moons settled without council permission. This crime cannot go unpunished. Ambassador Neera Patel stood at the center of the accused platform. She was 63 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and deep lines around her eyes. Behind her stood Governor Rami Okonkwo, a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that revealed nothing. Torvak continued reading. The punishment is exile. Permanent exile to Sigma 7. A gasp rippled through the assembly. Even some of Torvak's allies looked uncomfortable. Sigma 7 was legendary, and not in a good way. Sigma 7 is classified as a category 9 Deathworld, Torvak explained, his voice dripping with cruel pleasure. Acid rain falls for 6 months of the year. The gravity is 40% higher than Earth standard. Predators with jaws capable of crushing starship hull plating roam the surface. Volcanic activity covers 60% of the landmass. Electromagnetic storms will destroy any technology not buried underground. He paused for effect. The 50,000 humans gathered here will be transported to Sigma 7 within 30 standard days. No supplies beyond basic survival kits will be provided. No rescue missions will be authorized. In 5 years, we will send a ship to retrieve whatever remains. Torvak expected screaming. He expected begging. He expected Ambassador Patel to fall to her knees and plead for mercy. That was what every other species did when faced with such a sentence. Instead, Neera Patel simply nodded. We accept the Council's judgment, she said calmly. Torvak's antennae twitched in confusion. You accept? Yes. We will depart within the 30-day period as ordered. The assembly buzzed with confused whispers. This was wrong. This was not how condemned species behaved. Torvak leaned forward in his elevated seat. Do you understand what Sigma 7 is, human? Do you comprehend that you are being sent to die? Patel smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but Torvak saw it and felt something cold crawl through his thorax. We understand perfectly, Counselor. Sigma 7 has difficult conditions. We are prepared to face them. Difficult conditions, Torvak repeated. He almost laughed. The last species exiled to a category 9 world lasted 47 days. Their population was twice yours. Then we will try to last 48, Patel replied. The vote was called. 300 species voted. 287 voted in favor of the exile. 13 abstained. None voted against. The humans had made few friends in their short time among the galactic community. Prefect Ulyss was assigned to monitor the exile. He was young for a Thessarian, only 40 years old, with bright orange carapace plates and eager compound eyes. This was his first major assignment, and he approached it with professional dedication. I will send quarterly reports on the human population, Ulyss told Torvak. Assuming there is a population left to report on. Torvak clicked his approval. Good. Document everything. I want records of how quickly they fall apart. Other species need to see what happens when you defy the Council. The exile ships launched 3 weeks later. Ulyss watched from his observation vessel as 50 transport craft carried 50,000 humans toward a planet that had killed everything ever sent to its surface. Ambassador Patel stood at the viewport of the lead ship, watching Sigma 7 grow larger. Behind her, Governor Okonkwo studied data streams on his tablet. The volcanic soil composition is interesting, Okonkwo said quietly. Very mineral-rich. And those electromagnetic storms could be useful if we can figure out how to capture the energy. Patel nodded. The predators concern me more than anything else. We will lose people in the first few months. We always lose people at first, Okonkwo replied. That is the price of new worlds. Patel turned to look at him. You sound almost excited. I am. Okonkwo allowed himself a small grin. Counselor Torvak thinks he is punishing us. He thinks Sigma 7 will break us because it broke every species before us. But he made a mistake, Nira. A terrible mistake. What mistake? He forgot to ask where humans come from. Okonkwo pulled up an image on his tablet. It showed Earth, beautiful blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Our homeworld has hurricanes that flatten cities, earthquakes that swallow mountains, predators that hunt in packs with intelligence nearly matching our own, volcanoes that have wiped out entire civilizations, diseases that killed half our population in a single century. He switched to an image of Sigma 7, red and orange, violent and hostile. This planet is difficult, but it is not harder than Earth. The Council exiled us to a death world without realizing we already survived one. We evolved on one. We are Deathworlders. Ambassador Patel looked at the approaching planet with new eyes. They have no idea what they just gave us. No, Okonkwo agreed. They do not. And by the time they figure out, it will be far too late. The transport ships entered Sigma 7's atmosphere. Lightning crackled around them. Acid rain hammered against the heat shields. The gravity pulled at everyone's bodies with crushing force. And 50,000 humans smiled. They had work to do. The 17th grave was dug on the 42nd day. A young woman named Priya had been caught outside when an electromagnetic storm swept through the valley. The lightning found her before she could reach shelter. Governor Rami Okonkwo stood at the edge of the grave as the community gathered. The sky above was orange and angry, but the storm had passed for now. They had learned to read the clouds in the past 6 weeks. They were getting better at predicting when death would fall from above. Priya Singh came to Sigma 7 because she had no choice, Okonkwo said. But she stayed alive for 42 days because she chose to fight. She helped build our first water filtration system. She taught 3 children how to read during the night shifts. She never stopped believing we would survive. He picked up a handful of the red volcanic soil. We commit her body to this world that tried to kill her, this world that we will make our home despite everything it throws at us. The community repeated his words. Then they returned to work. There was no time for long mourning. Not yet, Doctor. Lena Adebayo was waiting for Okonkwo at the main shelter. She was a small woman with brilliant eyes and hands that never stopped moving. Before the exile, she had been one of Earth's top terraforming scientists. Now she was their best hope. I have good news and strange news, Lena said. Which do you want first? Good news. We need it. Lena held up a plant. It was green and thick, with leaves the size of dinner plates. This is a tomato plant. I planted the seed 8 days ago. Okonkwo stared. 8 days? That should take at least 3 weeks. I know. The volcanic soil is extraordinary, Rami. The mineral content, the chemical composition, the thermal activity beneath the surface. Plants grow 3 times faster here than on Earth. We will have crops within 2 months. For the first time in weeks, Okonkwo felt hope rise in his chest. And the strange news? Lena pointed toward the eastern ridge. The predators. Sergeant Ehejirika killed one yesterday. I examined the body, and the meat is edible. More than edible. It is incredibly rich in protein and nutrients. One of those creatures could feed 50 people for a week. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. So the monsters trying to eat us are also the best food source on the planet. Yes, Earth logic does not apply here. Or perhaps it applies more than we realized. On Earth, the most dangerous animals were often the most valuable. This is the same. Sergeant Deo Ehejirika had been a soldier for 20 years before the exile. He was a large man with scars on his arms and a calm voice that never rose above conversation level, even in battle. His team had lost 4 members to the predators in the first month. Now they were learning. The creatures hunt in pairs, Deo explained during the evening meeting. They communicate through subsonic, sounds we cannot hear. But we found that high-frequency noise confuses them. We built devices that emit the right pitch. The predators do not attack when the devices are active. So we can defend ourselves, Okonkwo said. Better than that, we can hunt them. Deo smiled grimly. They are not used to being prey. They are sloppy, overconfident. We killed 3 today with minimal risk. Young Hannah Reyes raised her hand. She was only 19, an engineering student who had been visiting her uncle when the exile happened. Now she was one of their most valuable minds. I have been studying the electromagnetic storms, Hannah said. The energy output is massive. If we can build collectors and bury them deep enough to survive the strikes, we could power our entire settlement. Forever. How long to build these collectors? For months. Maybe 3 if I get more hands. You will have them. By the end of the first year, Camp Foundation had transformed. Underground shelters protected 2,000 people from the acid rain seasons. Solar and storm collectors provided reliable power. Hunters brought in predator meat twice a week. The first harvest of vegetables fed everyone with food left over. Prefect Yulis arrived for his annual inspection. He had expected to find corpses. Instead, he found children playing in a protected courtyard while adults worked on construction projects. This is not possible, Yulis whispered. His compound eyes scanned the settlement with growing disbelief. The survival rate projections were clear. You should have lost 90% of your population by now. Ambassador Patel, who had insisted on staying despite her age, walked beside him. Your projections were based on other species. Not us. But the predators alone should have killed hundreds. They did. At first. Then we learned to kill them back. Yulis stopped walking. A young boy ran past carrying a toy made from predator bone. The boy was laughing. I do not understand your species, Yulis said quietly. Patel smiled. Neither does anyone else. That is why they keep underestimating us. That night, Yulis composed his report. He sat in his shuttle, staring at the blank document for nearly an hour before writing a single sentence. Umans Surviving. Anomaly noted. He did not mention the farms. He did not mention the predator hunts. He did not mention the children or the laughter or the impossible hope that seemed to fill every human he met. Some things, he decided, needed to be seen in person. And he suspected he would be returning to see them again 6 months later. The first baby was born on Sigma 7. Her parents named her Hope. She was the first of a new generation, the first true Deathworlder, and she was only the beginning. The predator purred like a machine as the child scratched behind its armored ears. It was the size of a small horse, with 6 legs and jaws that could bite through steel. Its name was Biscuit, and it had been born in captivity 3 years ago. Prefect Yulis watched from a safe distance, his compound eyes wide with something between terror and fascination. The creature that should have been tearing humans apart was rolling on its back while a 5-year-old girl rubbed its belly. This is impossible, Yulis said for perhaps the 100th time during this visit. Governor Okonkwo stood beside him, arms crossed, a slight smile on his weathered face. You keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. You have domesticated apex predators. Category: 9 apex predators. Only 3 species so far. The others are proving more difficult. Okonkwo shrugged. Give us another few years. 5 years had passed since the exile. Camp Foundation was gone. In its place stood New Mombasa, a sprawling settlement of 60,000 people. The original 50,000 had grown through births and through quiet arrivals. Ships carrying refugees from other human colonies had found their way to Sigma 7. The council did not know about these arrivals. The humans intended to keep it that way. Yulis had been visiting every year. Each time, he expected to finally see the collapse. Each time, he found more progress instead. Walk with me, Okonkwo said. There is much to see. They passed through the central district. Buildings rose 3 and 4 stories high, constructed from volcanic stone and reinforced with metals harvested from asteroid impacts. The streets were clean. People moved with purpose. Children attended schools. Adults worked in shops and factories and farms. How? Yulis asked. The acid rain should have destroyed any above-ground construction. We developed a coating, Okonkwo explained. Dr. Adebayo discovered that certain local minerals when processed correctly, create a substance that resists the acid. We paint on everything. The rain falls, and it simply washes off. They reach the industrial district. Yulis stopped in his tracks. Enormous tanks lined the street, each one collecting the acid rain through specialized funnels. Workers in protective suits moved between them, checking gauges and adjusting valves. You're collecting the acid rain. We are refining it. Okonkwo picked up a small container from a nearby table. The liquid inside was clear and odorless. Industrial cleaning agent, the most powerful in the galaxy, according to our chemists. We have begun trading it with smugglers who pass through this system. The demand is extraordinary. Yulis felt dizzy. You turned the rain that should kill you into a profitable export. We turned a problem into a solution. That is what humans do. The tour continued. Okonkwo showed him the hot springs district, where volcanic activity had been channeled into thermal pools. Humans lounged in the steaming water, relaxing after long work shifts. The temperature was carefully regulated. The mineral content was supposedly excellent for health. We call them the Ember Pools, Okonkwo said, named after a word in an old Earth language. Very popular. They descended into the cave networks. Yulis had read about these in survey reports. Dark, dangerous, filled with toxic gases and unstable rock formations. The reports recommended avoiding them entirely. Instead, he found himself walking through a wonderland. Bioluminescent organisms covered every surface. Blues and greens and purples pulsed in slow rhythms, creating patterns that seemed almost designed. The toxic gases had been vented. The unstable sections had been reinforced. Walkways and viewing platforms allowed visitors to experience the beauty safely. We discovered these in year 2, Okonkwo said softly, his voice echoing in a vast space. The biologists say these organisms exist nowhere else in the known galaxy. They are unique to Sigma 7. Yulis could not speak. He had never seen anything so beautiful. The lights reflected in his compound eyes, 1,000 colors dancing. Counselor Torvak sent us here to die. Okonkwo continued. He wanted us to suffer and disappear. Instead, we found this. We found paradise hiding beneath hell. That evening, they ate dinner on a platform overlooking the volcanic ridge. The sunset painted the sky in reds and oranges and golds. In the distance, an electromagnetic storm flickered on the horizon, providing a light show that rivaled any fireworks display. The meal was grilled predator steak, seasoned with herbs grown in volcanic soil, accompanied by vegetables that tasted richer than anything Yulis had ever eaten. He cleaned his plate twice. "This is the finest meal I have ever consumed," Yulis admitted. Okonkwo nodded. "The soil makes everything better. The predator meat absorbs minerals from its prey. Everything on this planet is connected. Everything is intense, including the food." They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell. The bioluminescent caves began to glow beneath them, visible through the transparent sections of the platform. "I must ask you something," Yulis said eventually, "and I need an honest answer." "Ask. May I return?" "Not as a prefect. Not as an inspector." Yulis hesitated. "I wish to visit again. For myself. To experience more of what you have built." Okonkwo studied the alien for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You are always welcome here, Yulis. As a guest. As a friend." Yulis filed his official report that night. It was brief and technical, mentioning only basic survival statistics and population numbers. He did not mention the domesticated predators or the industrial acid refining or the breathtaking caves. Some things he had decided did not belong in reports. Some things needed to be protected. And somewhere deep in his thorax, Yulis felt something strange stirring. He thought it might be admiration, or perhaps envy. These humans had taken death and made it into life that he wanted to understand how. Amara Osei stood before the city council with a proposal that made half the room laugh and the other half stare in stunned silence. She was 34 years old, a marketing specialist who had been exiled for the crime of being on the wrong transport ship at the wrong time. Now she was about to change everything. "Tourism," she repeated, because apparently the council had not heard her correctly the first time. I am proposing we open Sigma 7 to galactic tourism. Felix Brennan, the former cruise ship manager who had somehow become their hospitality coordinator, raised his hand. I support this idea. Of course you do, muttered one of the engineers. You are both insane. Governor Okonkwo held up a hand for silence. 10 years had aged him considerably. His hair was white now, his movements slower. But his mind remained sharp. Explain your reasoning, Amara. Word is spreading, Amara said. Ulysses is not the only one curious about us. Traders talk. Smugglers gossip. The entire galaxy knows that humans survived a Category 9 Deathworld. They are fascinated. They want to see how we did it. And you want to show them? The species that exiled us here. I want to charge them for the privilege. Amara smiled. Think about it. We have things no other planet in the galaxy can offer. Predator safaris, storm watching, volcanic hot springs, the bioluminescent caves, high-gravity training, extreme experiences that would be impossible anywhere else. It would be dangerous for alien visitors, Dr. Adebayo pointed out. Many species cannot handle our gravity or atmosphere, so we accommodate them. Gravity suits, breathing apparatus, guided tours with safety protocols. Amara pulled up projections on the central display. I have calculated the potential revenue. It is substantial, enough to fund expansion projects for decades. The council debated for 3 hours. In the end, the vote was 12 to 8 in favor. Sigma Retreats was born. The first advertisements spread through underground channels. They were simple and direct. Survive a death world. See what humans see. Experience what humans experience. Sigma Retreats. Where the galaxy's most dangerous planet becomes your greatest adventure. The first tourists arrived 6 months later. A group of wealthy Thessarians who wanted to prove their courage. They stepped off their shuttle and immediately fell to their knees under the gravity. Their exoskeletons strained. Their breathing became labored despite the filtered air. Felix was there to greet them. Welcome to Sigma 7. Please follow me to the orientation center where we will fit you with gravity compensation suits. The Thessarians spent 3 days on the planet. They rode domesticated predators through the volcanic valleys. They watched electromagnetic storms from reinforced viewing platforms. They bathed in the hot springs and ate predator steak and explored the glowing caves. When they left, they paid triple the quoted price and begged to return. Word spread faster than anyone expected. Within a year, Sigma Retreats was booked solid for 18 months in advance. Ships arrived weekly carrying visitors from dozens of species. The humans built hotels and restaurants and gift shops. They trained guides and safety officers and emergency medical teams. The money flowed in. New Mombasa expanded. New settlements sprouted across the planet. The population climbed toward 100,000. And then Counselor Torvak found out. This is an outrage. His voice echoed through the Galactic Assembly Hall. His mandibles clicked with fury. The humans were sentenced to exile. Punishment, not profit. The assembly stirred. Representatives whispered to each other. Many had heard rumors about Sigma 7. Some had relatives who had visited. They have turned their prison into a vacation destination. Torvak continued. They mock galactic justice. They mock this council. They must be stopped. A delegate from the Valorian Confederation raised a tentacle. My people have visited Sigma 7. They describe it as the most memorable experience of their lives. Why should we stop something that brings joy? Because it undermines the authority of this body. Does it? Or does it simply prove that your punishment was ineffective? The debate raged for hours. Some demanded military intervention. Others pointed out that Sigma 7 had committed no new crimes. Several delegates quietly mentioned that the tourism revenue had benefited their own economies through trade. No resolution was reached. The matter was tabled for further discussion. That night, an anonymous package arrived at Counselor Torvak's residence. Inside was a single item, a vacation voucher to Sigma Retreats, good for 1 week of all-inclusive accommodation. There was no note, no explanation, just a voucher. Torvak stared at it for a long time. His first instinct was to burn it. These humans had humiliated him. They had taken his greatest triumph and turned it into a joke. But another part of him, a small part he did not want to acknowledge, was curious. How had they done it? How had they transformed death into paradise? He placed a voucher in his desk drawer instead of destroying it, just in case. Governor Okonkwo learned about Torvak's reaction through unofficial channels. He laughed when he heard about the voucher. Do you think it will come? Amara asked. Eventually. The curious ones always do. Okonkwo looked out his window at the thriving city below. Children played in the streets. Adults worked and laughed and lived. In the distance, a predator herd grazed peacefully in domesticated pastures. And when he comes, Okonkwo continued, we will show him exactly what happens when you underestimate humans. What is that? We adapt. We overcome. We turn curses into blessings. He smiled. And sometimes, if we're lucky, we get to enjoy the look on our enemies' faces when they realize their mistake. Somewhere in the galaxy, Torvak opened his desk drawer and looked at the voucher again. He told himself he would never use it. He was lying. Ambassador Neera Patel had not expected to live this long. She was 83 years old now, her body frail and her movements slow. But her mind remained as sharp as the day. She had accepted humanity's exile with a smile that confused an entire galaxy. Today, she stood before the Galactic Assembly one final time. The Council has called this emergency session to address the Sigma problem, announced the current speaker, a gelatinous being from the Malaran system. The human settlement has grown beyond acceptable parameters. We must decide their fate. Counselor Torvak rose from his seat. He was older too. His carapace faded to a dull brown, but his hatred had not diminished. The solution is simple. Forced relocation. We move the humans to a monitored facility where they cannot cause further embarrassment to this body. A Valorian delegate objected immediately. On what grounds? They have committed no new crimes. They have made a mockery of galactic justice. They have made a profitable tourist destination. That is not the same thing. The debate had been raging for 3 days. The same arguments circled endlessly. Torvak demanded punishment. Others demanded mercy. Still others wanted nothing more than to forget the whole situation and move on. Ambassador Patel raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. There was something about the old woman that commanded attention, even after all these years. May I address the assembly? The speaker nodded. Patel walked slowly to the central platform, each step careful and deliberate. When she reached the speaking position, she paused to catch her breath. Then she looked up at the 300 species who would decide humanity's fate. Counselor Torvak believes we have made a mockery of justice. He is wrong. We have made a mockery of nothing. Torvak's antennae twitched with irritation. 15 years ago, you gave us your worst. You chose the most terrible planet in your database and sent us there to die. You expected corpses. You expected failure. You expected to hold us up as an example of what happens when lesser species defy the mighty Galactic Council. Patel's voice grew stronger as she spoke. Instead, we gave you back wonder. We took your death sentence and transformed it into life. We turned acid rain into industry. We turned predators into companions. We turned volcanic wasteland into fertile farms. We turned hell into a destination that beings from across the galaxy pay fortunes to visit. She pointed at the assembly with a trembling finger. You did not defeat us. You revealed us. You showed the galaxy what humans truly are. We are survivors. We are adapters. We are the species that looks at the impossible and sees only a challenge. The chamber was completely silent. So now you must decide. Will you punish us for succeeding? Will you punish us for refusing to die on schedule? Will you punish us for being exactly what we have always been? Patel lowered her hand. Her energy was fading, but she had one more thing to say. Or will you accept that perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy is better with humans in it? She walked back to her seat. The silence lasted for nearly a minute. Then the Valorian delegate began to applaud. Then another delegate joined. Then another. Within moments, half the assembly was showing appreciation in their various species-specific ways. Torvak watched in horror. This was not how things were supposed to go. Humans were criminals. Humans were troublemakers. Humans were supposed to be made an example of. Instead, they were becoming heroes. The vote was called that evening. The question was simple: recognize Sigma 7 as legitimate human territory or authorize forced relocation. The counting took 3 hours. When the final tallies were announced, the result was unprecedented: 150 votes for recognition, 149 votes for relocation. A tie. In 300 years of council history, there had never been a tied vote on a major resolution. All eyes turned to Councillor Torvak. As the original prosecutor, tradition gave him the deciding vote in case of tie. Torvak stood slowly. His body ached. His mind raced. 15 years of anger and humiliation boiled inside him. But so did something else. Something he had felt growing since the voucher arrived in his office. Curiosity. Doubt. A small voice asking questions he did not want to answer. "I need time," he said finally. "Before I cast my vote, I wish to visit Sigma 7 myself. I wish to see what the humans have built with my own eyes." The chamber erupted in murmurs. This was highly irregular, but there was no rule against it. Ambassador Patel smiled from her seat. It was the same smile she had worn 15 years ago when she accepted the exile sentence. The smile that had haunted Torvak's dreams. She knew something he did not. She had known it all along. "Very well," the speaker announced. "The vote is suspended pending Councillor Torvak's official visit to Sigma 7. This session is adjourned." Torvak gathered his documents and prepared to leave. As he passed Ambassador Patel's seat, he stopped. "Why?" he asked quietly, so only she could hear. "Why did you accept the exile so easily? You knew this would happen." Patel looked up at him with ancient, knowing eyes. "I knew you would send us somewhere terrible. I knew you expected us to fail. I knew that when we succeeded, it would force the galaxy to reconsider everything they believed about humans. You planned this? All of it." "I planned nothing." Patel smiled again. "I simply trusted my people. Humans do not know how to give up, Counselor. We never have. We never will. That is both our greatest strength and our greatest curse." She reached in her pocket and pulled out a small object. A piece of volcanic rock, polished smooth and carved with the symbol of New Mombasa. "A gift," she said, "for your visit. Welcome to Sigma 7, Counselor. I hope you survive the experience." Torvak took the rock. It was warm in his hand. For the first time in 15 years, he was afraid of humans. Not because they were dangerous, because they were impossible. And the impossible, he was learning, had a way of becoming real. Counselor Torvak expected fire and destruction when his shuttle descended through the atmosphere. He expected to see a desperate colony clinging to survival, its people worn down by years of hardship. He expected vindication for his original sentence. Instead, he saw a city, New Mombasa, spread across the volcanic valley like a jewel set in stone. Buildings of red and black rose in orderly streets. Green parks and gardens dotted the landscape. In the distance, the famous hot springs sent plumes of steam into the orange sky. Traffic moved along elevated roads. People walked through open markets. It was beautiful. Terrifyingly beautiful. Governor Rami Okonkwo met him at the landing pad. The old man moved slowly now, supported by a cane, but his eyes were still sharp and his handshake still firm. "Welcome to Sigma 7, Counselor. I have been waiting 15 years to show you what you created." "What I created?" Okonkwo smiled. "You gave us this world. Without your sentence, none of this would exist. In a strange way, we owe you everything." Torvak did not know how to respond. He had expected hostility. He had expected anger and resentment. Instead, he received gratitude that felt almost sincere. The tour began the next morning. Okonkwo insisted on guiding him personally, despite his age and failing health. They started at the volcanic ridge, watching the sunrise paint the sky in colors that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The light filtered through atmospheric gases and scattered into 100 shades of red and gold and purple. Torvak stood in silence for nearly an hour, unable to look away. "Every morning is different," Okonkwo said. 15 years, and I have never seen the same sunrise twice." They descended into the bioluminescent caves. Torvak had seen images, but images could not capture the reality. The living lights pulsed around him, responding to his movements, creating patterns that seemed to tell stories in a language older than the galaxy itself. The scientists believe these organisms have been here for millions of years, Okonkwo explained, evolving in darkness, creating beauty that no one would ever see. Until we came. They attended a storm-watching dinner on one of the floating platforms. The electromagnetic tempest raged on the horizon, lightning dancing between clouds in continuous sheets of white and blue. The thunder rolled like music. The air crackled with energy. Torvak ate predator steak and drank wine made from local fruits and watched the storm with tears streaming down his compound eyes. "Why are you crying?" Okonkwo asked gently. "I do not know." Torvak wiped his eyes with trembling hands. "I have never seen anything like this. I have lived for 200 years, and I have never seen anything like this." On the third day, they visited a residential district. Children played in the streets, laughing and shouting in a mixture of Earth languages. Some of them ran alongside domesticated predators, treating the deadly creatures like oversized pets that a little girl approached Torvak without fear. She could not have been more than 7 years old. She was holding a flower grown in volcanic soil, its petals an impossible shade of blue. "Are you the bugman who sent us here?" she asked innocently. Torvak flinched. "Ah, yes. I suppose I am." The girl held out the flower. "Thank you. Sigma 7 is the best planet ever. My mom says we are lucky to live here." She ran off before Torvak could respond. He stood frozen, the flower in his hand, something breaking inside his chest. That night, Okonkwo told him the truth. "Earth was our first death world," the governor said. They were sitting on his private balcony, overlooking the glowing city. "Everything on our home world evolved to kill. The plants are poisonous. The animals are vicious. The weather is deadly. Disease spreads without warning." He gestured at the landscape around them. "This planet is difficult, but we have seen difficult before. We evolved in difficult. When you sent us here, you thought you were punishing us. Instead, you sent us home." Torvak was quiet for a long moment. "I made a terrible mistake, did I not?" "Yes and no." Okonkwo looked at the old alien with something like compassion. "You underestimated us. That was a mistake. But your mistake gave us this world. Your mistake gave us a chance to build something new, something better than anything we had before. So I should feel proud. You should feel whatever you feel. I'm not here to tell you how to process this." Okonkwo stood slowly, leaning on his cane. "But I will tell you something else. Ambassador Patel died 3 days ago. Her last words were about you." Torvak looked up sharply. "What did she say?" "She said that you would vote in our favor. She said that you were not a cruel being, just a foolish one. And fools can learn if they are willing." The vote was held 1 week later. Counselor Torvak stood before the assembly, all 300 species watching, waiting for his decision. "I have visited Sigma 7, he announced. "I have seen what the humans have built. I have eaten their food, experienced their wonders, and spoken with their children." He paused. The chamber was utterly silent. 15 years ago, I sentenced them to death. I was wrong. I was wrong about their weakness. I was wrong about their spirit. I was wrong about everything." His voice trembled slightly, but he pushed forward. "I vote to recognize Sigma 7 as sovereign human territory. May this assembly learn from my mistake. Never underestimate a species that can turn hell into paradise." The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Some protested. Many simply sat in stunned silence that IT did not matter. The vote was cast. The decision was final. Humanity had 1.20 years later, Sigma 7 became a founding member of the new Galactic Trade Alliance. The planet that was meant to be a prison became one of the most prosperous worlds in the known galaxy. And on a quiet street near the volcanic hot springs, an old Thessarian ran a small cafe. His name was Torvak. He served predator steak and volcanic wine and told stories about the old days to anyone who would listen. When visitors asked why he chose to live on a death world, he always gave the same answer. "Because humans taught me something important. Hell is just paradise waiting for someone stubborn enough to find it. Then he would smile, pour another drink, and watch the impossible sunset paint the sky in colors that should not exist. He had never been happier.